Okay, guys, we're about to start Chapter 6 of Race the Wild Rainforest Relay by Kristen Earhart. Creature feature, pale-throated three-toed sloth. Scientific name, Bradypus triactylus. Type, mammal. Range, rainforest of Central and South America. Food, tree leaves, twigs, and buds. What is the size of a house cat, lives upside down, and is one of the slowest animals in the world? The sloth. The three-toed sloth has long curved claws. Its claws are strong enough that the sloth can hang from them all day, even while it sleeps, which is a lot. The length of its claws makes it hard for the sloth to move on the ground, so these animals are safest in the canopy. Sloths often have a green hint in their long hair. It's because algae, a kind of plant, lives there. There are other three-toed sloths and also two-toed sloths, but they are all different species. Chapter 6, A Good Predator. Russell saw the movement in the leaves. He grabbed Mary's hand and took off, trying to get as far from the jaguar cub as possible. He knew that the cub would be the mother's first concern. "Meet at the boat!" Sage's voice seemed to fade as she and Dev ran down the path. Russell and Mary forged deeper into the forest. They ran until they had to stop, Russell's shallow breath burning in the back of his throat. "I can't believe we saw a jaguar. They're incredibly endangered and very private animals." While Mary was marveling about their good fortune, Russell was thinking that their fortune was not so good at all. Looking around, he realized how foolish they had been. They had run without thinking, without noting landmarks. "I still hear something," Russell said. The rainforest was always full of sound, but this was the sound of a large group of animals, leaves rustling, twigs breaking. "Come on," he said, grabbing Mary's hand. He jogged, skirting fallen branches. He stopped. "I still hear it!" That's when he saw the tree. Its top branches opened like a giant green umbrella in the sky, nearly 200 feet high. But Russell was interested in the tree's base. He pulled Mary toward it. Many leg-like roots sprouted from the trunk, making the tree look like a sea monster, rising from the wet earth. Russell didn't care. He had seen a gap between the gnarled roots. Ducking down, he tried not to think of the hundreds of species that would call a dark hollow like this home. He pulled off his backpack and slid through the opening. It was dark, and the damp air smelled rich. "A good predator could sniff us out in here," Mary insisted. Russell brought his finger to his lips. "A good predator wouldn't break twigs," he whispered, telling us it was close. He knew Mary understood. He had thought it was the jaguar following them at first, too, but jaguars were too clever to be detected. Russell knelt down, hidden by the shadows, and listened. Beyond the soft scurrying and odd dripping sounds under the tree, he could hear something else. There were voices coming closer. "Where'd they go?" Russell recognized that voice at once. It was Gabe. "I don't know. It says they should be here," Dallas replied. Even in the darkness, Russell could see Mary's eyes grow wide as she realized it was the green team. Maybe it's broken. Maybe Russell's team didn't come this way at all. Russell tried to peek out, but he couldn't see anything. What was Dallas looking at? Ooh, I remember that pat on his backpack in the beginning chapters of this book. Seems like we might have some cheating on our hands. What do you think? Maybe some cheating? Here's where they're hiding, in the deep part of the tree. It was working before. It doesn't matter. Russell doesn't know where he's going, or maybe he's lost his backpack. We have to get back to the river. Maybe our guide can give us a hint. That was Jaden. No one responded to him. They just took off, heading back the way they came. "What was that all about?" Mary asked as she and Russell squeezed their way out in the open. "I can't say," Russell whispered. "You heard the same thing. It sounded like they followed us." "But why?" Mary wondered. Russell shook his head as he brushed ants off his legs. Even though he had a sneaking suspicion As to how his friends had found them, he really couldn't say. Not unless he wanted to get them kicked out of the race for good. For now, he decided to focus his own team. "We've got to move," Russell insisted, but Mary was facing in the opposite direction. She shifted her backpack and buckled it at her chest before she turned around. "We came from that way, didn't we?" Mary asked, pointing. There was doubt in her voice. "I don't think so," Russell said, noticing tracks on the ground. "It looks like the green team went this way." Without another word, they set off at a jog. Russell quickly lost the green team's path. Mary was not fast, but she was steady. It gave Russell time to try to pick out the best route. It was hard to tell if they were headed in the right direction. He led Mary downhill, hoping the slope would lead to the river, only to find that the land pitched uphill again. "Wait," Mary said after a while, coming to a full stop. "Nothing looks familiar." She had turned back and was facing the opposite direction again. To Russell, this part of the forest looked pretty much like all the others. Moss everywhere, endless trees, emerald green overhead, dead leaves on the ground. Russell would never admit it, but he was certain they were lost. And that's the end of this chapter.